Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for coming to Q2 meeting of the Rhode Island Hunger Elimination Task Force. It's great to have you all here. We have a very important meeting today, so it's great to see those of you who have been able to join. We are going to take just a few minutes. We're going to ask people to introduce themselves in the chat because we have a lot of folks. I would like you, if you're able to, please list your name, your affiliation, and since the weather is so gorgeous today, tell us your favorite summer vegetable. You can write it in the chat there. I'm not going to write mine, but I'm Rachel. I am the Program Director for Food Access and Nutrition Security with the Rhode Island Food Policy Council, and I love eggplant. And I'll invite the rest of you to enter your information into the chat there. Just as a way, and please also in the chat, if you're new to this space and have never joined the HETF meeting before, let us know that in the chat as well. That'd be great. So just to let you know why we're here, big picture, the Hunger Elimination Task Force is a quarterly meeting of stakeholders from throughout the state who come together with the goal to increase access to healthy and culturally appropriate food for all Rhode Island residents. Today, we have an especially pertinent meeting because we're going to be getting all of your input into what is the Rhode Island, thank you for putting that up. We're going to be getting your input into the Rhode Island Food System Preparedness and Recovery Plan. In short, that is a plan that we're working with the state on putting together to make sure that we are ready to respond to food crises, to make sure that our vulnerable communities are prepared for them and then also can bounce back. Today's agenda, what we're going to be going over, big pictures, a few other things as well. First off, we're going to be preparing for our HETF Action Group number 2, which I'll describe in just a minute. We're going to be having that listening session for the Preparedness and Recovery Plan, and then we'll have space at the end for announcements. So if you want to go to the next slide, there you go, Action Group. Thank you. So Action Groups 2. So action groups are a new structure for this year. What we heard in feedback from prior years of HETF is that the task force wanted to be doing more directly to identify needed policy reforms. And so this is a great place that we are leveraging all of your input. The action groups meet 4 times a year on different topics that were determined by this group in the past year. The action groups meet for 3 one-hour meetings over the course of a few months. And at the end of that course of meetings, they deliver recommendations to state agencies on how to make improvements to our food system to reduce hunger. Last quarter, the action group was meeting on the issue of food delivery. We had some really excellent contributions to that conversation, and we'll be delivering recommendations on how to improve food delivery for those in need in the state. We're going to be delivering those recommendations in June. The upcoming action group, which will start right after this meeting, is going to be on making policy recommendations for state agencies to improve state, local, and nonprofit emergency food delivery. So it's really about coordination between the state, local, and nonprofit agencies on emergency food delivery. Right after this meeting, Max is going to send out a scheduling email to everyone, and we would love to have at least 5 people step up who are interested in who have worked directly in this area of coordination between working with the state and nonprofits or state and municipalities on providing food to those in need, and really has folks who have some input and ideas to give on what specific recommendations we will make. So the action group registration is going to be in the link. Is going to be linked in the chat. I don't have my chat up. Max put in chat. There you go.
There.
Perfect. If you are interested in joining this conversation on coordination between state, municipalities, and and local nonprofits on coordinating getting food to people, please do register for those upcoming meetings. Again, those group will meet 3 times over the next several months. So it is a limited commitment, but we have found that it's actually a very productive format to be able to get feedback to the state from what those of you who work in the field think. Next.
I believe.
So next we're going to turn it over. Yeah. So next we're going to turn it over to Jen and Tony Silbert and their team with Spartina Consulting. They're the ones that are working with us on developing the food system preparedness and recovery plan. This is one of multiple listening sessions that they are conducting to get input from throughout the state on what should be going into that plan. So I'm going to turn it over to them, Jen and Tony.
Rachel, thank you so much. My name is Jenny Hetzel-Silbert. I'm here with Spartina Consulting alongside my work and life partner, Tony Silbert, along with our colleague, Jim Burson, who's joining us today. It takes a village to do a listening tour as massive as the one we're embarking on now. And we can't thank you enough for being a part of this one. Spartina takes great pride in being much like the grass that's growing in my backyard in the salt marsh, where as a single blade, it's weak, and yet its strength is in numbers, and it creates the very boundary of our state and of our continent. It's all about being in service to the ecosystem, which is what brings us here today. We have a jam-packed agenda where we are going to, over the course of the next, 80 plus minutes, we are going to do a quick overview of our strategic planning process and approach so you understand how this one session fits into the larger picture of our work ahead of us. And then we're going to put you into the conversation rounds. You'll be in breakout groups over 3 conversations with a different member of in each breakout group for each of the 3 rounds. First round, it's called SOAR. First round is strengths. Second is opportunities. And third will be aspirations and results. And we'll explain a little bit more of that in just a bit. We have a short ditty we're going to close our session with on mapping the food system so that you understand what's coming ahead there, and then make sure we're clear on next steps. And there's some announcements at the very end. So I say we jump right in since there's so many folks here and we want to use your precious time. Quick heads up. So when we think about strategic planning, of course, it's about creating a way forward. It's why we need plans. But this is bigger than that, because this is about creating shared meaning and understanding for coordinated action. We recognize that not a single entity, and most certainly not the outputs or deliverables provided to Rhode Island Food Policy Council, can in and of by itself, like that single blade of Spartina grass, serve that large ecosystem, that it really does take a village. So in addition to creating a plan together, we're here to create momentum and energy to get us where we want to go faster. I'm going to turn it over to Tony to give an overview of our process to date.
Hey everyone, it's nice to see you all. Thank you for participating, and we're really looking forward to getting your voice in the room here shortly. Just a little overview of our process. We launched back at the end of January with our core planning team, and on a monthly basis, our core planning team comes together to guide the overall strategic planning process. And if you'll see, between March and early June, is what we call stakeholder engagement, and we are well steeped in our listening tour and discovery work. So we've done a number of sessions with the HES, the IFIN PAC. We have today the Hunger Elimination Task Force. Tomorrow we've got the state agency meeting, and we've got 3 other virtual sessions that we will be doing. At the end, we'll share that information so that you can help us get the word out to those that we need to be listening to. So we're going to take all of what we listened to and bring that back to a strategy retreat with our core planning team and advisors to develop this emergency food plan so that we're better prepared for food disruptions, for response and recovery in future disruptions. So that's a little bit about the process and where we're going. Now, the approach that we use is a little bit different. Some of you have probably experienced or participated in a SWOT analysis, and that's where you focus on the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. But as you know, most organizations, institutions focus more heavily on the weaknesses and threats. And this causes a downward spiral of thought, action, and behavior that limits ability to see future possibilities. So we are looking for your bold thinking for the future. So instead, we're using something called a SOAR analysis. So we still keep these strengths and opportunities. What are our greatest strengths? What do you value most? What worked the best during the pandemic? We look at the opportunities to innovate and improve, but instead of the weaknesses and threats, we're focused on the aspirations and results. We want to know from your perspective, what are your moonshots for the food system working at its best and then the next disruption. So we're going to, as Jen mentioned, put you into 3 rounds. She's going to go through the instructions and I'm going to get our breakout rooms set up now. Jenny.
Jen, you're on mute.
You're mute.
Sorry about that. Most popular expression in the last 4 years. Jen, you're on mute. So first round is on strengths. And everyone say hi to Marty, our 4-legged 14-year-old coworker who makes the least opportunistic times to introduce himself. So the questions we have for strengths are as follows. We want you to scan the lessons learned from the pandemic and really examine what's worked. What worked especially well related to Rhode Island's emergency food response. And this can hit on so many categories and themes. We'd love to hear everything you have to share. The second question is, what do you think are Rhode Island's strengths in our ability to ensure a sufficient supply of food that is acceptable and accessible to communities impacted by food disruptions? A key phrase I want to use in this whole process is an equity lens. We want to be sure that in all the questions we're sharing with you and in the conversations you're about to have in breakouts, that we keep an eye on our most vulnerable populations. So with that in mind, what you're going to do is I'm about to put in the chat a link to a document that looks something like this. It's a canvas. And it's a virtual link where what we're going to ask you to do is for the number that you see in the upper left corner of the screen, I'm putting it in the chat right now, that you ensure your assigned breakout room, which you're about to find out, matches the slide number. So if, let's say you're in breakout room number 3, you're going to, when you get to that link that shows all the canvases here, and if you're in breakout room 3, you make sure you go to slide 3, so that you are able to have a conversation with group 3 on number 3 canvas. The questions are shared for you here at the bottom. And ideally just find a person who's comfortable working in PowerPoint, or in this case, Google Slides, to simply type responses to the questions in the space provided. If you only get to one question, that is fine. The goal is to simply arrive to the room, have a conversation using the questions as your guide, and capture key responses in the space provided. We're going to go 12 to 15 minutes for this first round. Tony, are we ready for breakout groups?
Yep, there are 6 rooms, so just use the canvases numbers 1 through 6, and I'm about to open the rooms now. See you in 12 to 15 minutes. Thank you.
And whatnot. And then I was primarily involved with the food access calls, which are still going monthly, and I think they're amazing. But that was so key to just seeing what was happening, what was out there, what's new. And we, I'm sure a lot of people talked about that, because that was like really so great for collaboration and coordination in like a really fast time. And then lastly, we were talking about culturally relevant foods and how that really came to the surface during that time, and trying to really spearhead that going forward.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. And for those that don't want to share in the Zoom room, feel free to drop a strength, one big strength that stood out in the chat. Just like Megan said, Group 1 discussed the level of resources and funding. So obviously the funding and resources that were applied during the pandemic were extremely helpful. Any other strengths that you would like to add, either unmute or drop them in the chat?
We'd like to hear from 1 or 2 more voices before we go to the next round. Who else has something to add, who wants to unmute?
I know from just a personal experience of working with different state agencies. I'm with Farm Fresh Rhode Island and work really closely with the Department of Environmental Management on both LFPA and SFMMP funded programs. So for me, it was great to have state agencies that were really like advocating and supporting these programs. I know that because we are such a small state, it was really great to be able to get that funding and then utilize it like as quickly as possible. I know other larger states like Texas and California were having issues with trying to, like, they received the funding but weren't able to make plans as fast. So just due to our size and having state agencies that were really, really supportive was a huge support.
Great. Thank you so much,
Fantastic.
Allie. And Caitlin, we see you have your hand raised. Jump on in.
Yeah, we named a lot that the other groups already mentioned, so I want to echo that, but also schools and school meal programs were really leveraged, and the additional flexibilities from the government that allowed them to be grab and go helped a lot, and schools were a good way to get to the students, but also their families.
Wonderful.
I saw a lot of heads shaking when you said that, so thank you for that addition. Any others before we move on to our second round? Okay, Jenny.
All right, let's jump on in. Oh, wait a minute. Before I saw that Rita had her hand up, and I want to make sure we heard from you.
That's okay.
Thank you, Rita.
Yeah, I mean, there were a few things. So I'm also from East Bay Community Action Program. So we had the benefit of also running at the time a health equity zone, or trying to stand up actually a brand new health equity
Wow.
zone. So we started to convene some community partners who happen to have deep connections to those most vulnerable populations. So it really helped us to kind of integrate what we were trying to do as a HES and what we're trying to do as a CAP agency, with, you know, having a pre-existing food pantry, senior meal site, and we were able to get input from the folks that needed the services the most, and then kind of mix and match the resources that we had with other partners. For example, the senior center had a captive audience of seniors that either couldn't get out to get their meals, or I'm still trying to figure out how COVID was spread, right? And they could not go into the lunch program. They had staff that could deliver meals, but they didn't have, they had a van, but they didn't have money for staffing. So we were able to use HES funding to help them hire a staff and to deliver our food from our food pantry. So those kind of partnerships and identifying the gaps and then like building on the strengths.
Thank you for sharing that. That's gold. In fact, I encourage you all to build on what you just discovered about what has worked in the past. And now let's examine what could be even better. So opportunities. For those that have done traditional SWOT analyses and you love talking about weaknesses and threats, this is where we invite you to reframe the weakness or the threat into the solution. What do we want going forward that might be different? So what would make Rhode Island's food system better prepared for future food disruptions? What improvements would ensure all Rhode Islanders, especially our most vulnerable, have access to food in future food disruptions? And then what resources in either your community or maybe statewide, anywhere in the state, could be accessed, developed, maybe further connected, better connected for those future disruptions. We're gonna rinse and repeat, same as before, so that what you have a chance to hear from each other and to have a conversation in a new group. I'm putting that link in the chat right now, and it looks like this. So remember, if you're whatever room number you happen to be assigned, that's gonna be the Canvas number you go to meet your new friends and have a conversation using the questions as your guide. It's super important that you don't feel this pressure to answer all 3 questions. If you pick one and have a meaningful 12 to 15 minute dialogue, that's gold to us. So have a note taker for your group, and I say we set you free. Hopefully you're all headed there now. Welcome back, welcome back.
Okay, so was it group 1 this time? Saw Amelia come flying in first. Amelia, where?
I don't know if it was Amelia or Megan. Might have been a tie.
All right.
I was here, ready to go.
Here's the prize. You just have to collect it next time I see you in person, Megan.
Great.
a
So we
little
would
candy
love
bowl.
to hear highlights of your opportunities round. If it's helpful, please start by jumping into the chat. And what was like one of those gold star opportunities? Boy, we really have to do this going forward. We would love to hear and see what y'all talked about. Who would like to share? Please unmute yourself and or raise your hand.
All right, I can't find the hand, but I'm happy to jump in. Megan, Grady, I had an awesome group number 4. I want to say that like you can feel the energy and the excitement amongst the stakeholders in our group. Like they're ready to get prepared for the future. They're ready to take action. I think in summary, right, like really want to double click in on hyper localization of food production, right? Making sure that we are working with smaller and medium sized growers locally, less miles traveled. And the other thing that I think really came through is access. Making sure that like there are more delivery services for meals, for food, ensuring they're affordable. And if those aren't available, finding alternative ways to overcome transportation barriers. In summary, this group is all about the ecosystem, ensuring that all the different parts are connected. So nice job to my colleagues in group number 4.
Nice job, group 4. All right, let's hear from one of the other groups. Let's hear from group 2. Let's hear. Group 2 was Caitlin, Andrew, Rachel. Thank you.
Okay, I'll add to what Megan said, because of course local food is important. I think should be a priority in the pandemic and in a future event. But one thing that was interesting that came up in our group was also being prepared to look for food outside. Be aware for food that might come from the government or how you have to access that and pay for it and use it. And also in the meantime, building regional connections so that, of course, we want to have local food, and that really can be what saves us, but also to be ready for those outside sources too.
Great, thank you. I want to go back to Kim from group 3. You were ready. We're ready for you.
Okay. So, yeah, so we had a great group as well, and I'll just add a couple things that were not mentioned. So we talked about the need for technology linkages so that the people that have the resources can reach the people that need the resources, and the people that need them know who to contact. And there's like a way to reach out to people, like we're having, this is available. Come, do you need it? So that was something really important. We also talked about making sure that there's translators and interpreters for communities to speak different languages, and also culturally appropriate foods and medically tailored foods that are there for people. And we also talked about an opportunity being, increased access to transportation to get food to people. And there's a lot of innovative things happening, both in Rhode Island, but also in other states that are like using Amazon to do deliveries and things like that, of like food prescription programs. And then we also mentioned the vision for the statewide produce prescription plan that's being discussed in the state. So those were we have a lot of other things too, but those are just a few. Oh, community health.
Wonderful.
Big piece. The HESs, the huge opportunity that the HESs are needing to keep them funded, and the community health workers, and what a key liaison they were, and the importance of that opportunity of the community health workers.
Thank you for that. We had a session back in early March at the HES conference, and that is a powerful network to be activated in any future disruption. Any last additions from group 5? Just anything else that you had that may not have been mentioned so far? Jeanette, Mike, Jason, Shelby?
Oops, as I just dropped the ball. Sorry, I can say something now that I've drawn attention to myself. Our last one about more consistent communication and coordination with policymakers and legislators, with the asterisk of I've only, like a drop of sand in the bucket, been involved in the food policy space in Rhode Island for maybe like 6 months. So that being said, and also learning to whatever extent is possible and communicating with folks who maybe make it more challenging to get some of the policy passed. Just in my, again, short time with this, it does seem like there's often a lot of really excited and meaningful energy and time put into advocating and having meetings like this. I think this is great, like coming from the like media innovation space and the food innovation stuff that I was doing in my master's program, like these SWOT analyses, this sort of like, let's hear what like the ideation, like outside thinkers can bring to this kind of conversation. But sometimes I think so like the opportunity would be, yeah, to like think outside the box and to some of the folks who are putting up those barriers, because otherwise there's, you know, a really great echo chamber, but sometimes the echo chamber stays where it is and we don't make the impact as best as we could.
Jason, thank you for that. And you're not alone, even though you're new to this. We've heard that theme of communication and coordination across agencies and groups that care about this, from the one-on-one interviews and focus group sessions that we've been doing all along. So right on. Thank you for that addition. Jen, you want to get them into our last round?
Absolutely. So our last round, remember, we've done strengths, you've examined opportunities, and now it's aspirations and results. So for those of you that are thinking, but I didn't really dive deep enough for opportunities, keep going. And when we talk about aspirations and results, we want you to stretch and imagine you're in a time warp. It's 2030. And I want you to imagine really that Rhode Island is successful, resourceful, and efficient in navigating a food disruption to a future disruption to our food supply and distribution system. So it's going to happen, but we can handle it and we're ready for it. So what must be happening new, better, or different in 2030, not 2020, and who else is involved? Key phrase here is moonshots. Fun fact, not a single NASA scientist knew how to get to the moon when JFK first declared the moonshot. So it's not about having the what, the answer, as much as knowing where we ultimately want to go and what that looks like. So in the chat is a final link to capture your aspirations and results. And that canvas looks like this. Again, remember to ensure that whatever group number you are assigned in your final round matches your canvas number that you go to. All right. Thank you so much, Rita, and all of you. We really are excited to have you in this third and final round. Let's jump in.
I think everyone is back now. Is that correct, Jen? Or we still have folks coming back in? There it is. Everyone's, yeah, here we go. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Sorry if Zoom was rude and kicked you out of a great conversation. We want to respect your time, knowing that we want to get you out of here by 3:20. So in order to save just a bit of time, we'd love to hear one big hope that your groups talked about. So everyone get in chat right now and just put in one of those big hopes or aspirations or desired results that your group discussed that was really important to you. Okay? Let's see some of those big hopes. While we're waiting, there we go. Fruit trees everywhere. Yes. This ties back to Rachel's question at the beginning. What's your favorite summer fruit? Can't stop thinking about watermelon now. Awesome. Investment in ag tech. Yes. Now I need the glasses. Caitlin, love Lisa's idea about encouraging more people to grow and produce food themselves where appropriate. That would improve overall resilience in our state. Absolutely. Wonderful. Well, keep them coming. I want to turn it back over to Max. By the way, we're going to be combining the outputs from this source session with all of the other listening sessions that we've been doing. We really appreciate your help and your wisdom and your experience that you shared with us. Please tell your colleagues, friends, and anyone else that you think has a word to say about what would help the emergency food response be even better, to join us Wednesday, tomorrow, from 11:30 to 1. Saturday, May 11th from 10:30 to 12, or Wednesday, May 22nd from 3 to 4:30. We will get you, oh, there it is.
The link is in the
registration link.
chat. Exactly.
Thank you, Jen.
In fact,
Perfect.
anyone who knows a person or many people in your network who would benefit from, whom we would benefit from having heard in a focus group such as this, please copy that link and spread the word. The more the merrier. We're really especially hopeful to ensure that our most vulnerable populations have a front seat right at the table, and that we get a chance to connect and learn and grow with them. In fact, speaking of, just a heads up that in addition to all of these focus groups, there's a slew of interviews and now asset mapping that is being conducted by our colleague, Mark Kravitz. He is not able to join us for this focus group today. However, you can start to begin, given the information we're receiving and learning and studying, there's some key themes that are emerging around which we're going to be creating these maps. And they span the full spectrum that we need to be prepared for in the event of an emergency and a food disruption. I'm going to put up a QR code, so help us build the map. If you scan this QR code, it'll take you to a very few questions for data entry that goes straight to Mark so that he can further amplify our asset mapping process. So I'm going to leave that up for a quick second. For those that are still digging for their phone, please scan the QR code. And then I'm going to turn it over to Julie, or to Rachel. And next.
All right. So my main announcement was just asking people to please share the information with your communities about these next upcoming listening sessions, which are going to be tomorrow, Saturday, and the 22nd. In the chat there, there's both, Jen put a link to the registration form, but also I put a link in there that is to a formatted invite, if that's an easier thing to forward. I think many of you also would have gotten that invite in your mailbox, so please ask for your assistance in distributing that widely. And those are our basic announcements for now. I just really want to thank everybody. This was wonderful, sitting here and watching those cards fill in with all of your fantastic ideas. And this is, as always, such a great and thoughtful group on so many issues that are really important to food security. Willa, thank you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for your contributions. I'm going to turn it over now to Julie, who is going to share a little bit about the statewide food strategy update, which kind of parallels this process, or this is a smaller process that parallels her process. I'll turn it over to you, Julie.
Sure. Thanks, Rachel. I know many of you already. If you don't, I'm the Director of Food Strategy. I'm based at Rhode Island Commerce, and I support efforts that advance our state's food strategy, which came out in 2017, known as Relish Rhody. So I'll just be really brief because I know this is a repeat for everyone, for some folks, but I will commit to always providing updates to this audience of the Hunger Elimination Task Force on our planning process. We're updating the plan, setting collective goals out to 2030. This will work very collaboratively with what Rachel and Team Spartina is developing, and the Emergency Food Preparedness and Recovery Plan, sort of as a companion document to the long-term food strategy, which is really focused on long-term resilience, sustainability, and food security for Rhode Island. So just a quick update, we are in the process of developing 24 food system issue and market briefs. Many of you, I think, on the call or have been contacted or are potentially writing those briefs. They will be foundational to help us understand the next steps of broad engagement. There's about 40 subject matter experts, community partners, and researchers working on those. They will be published very soon in mid-June, so we'll make sure to get those out to you. And then the other thing I wanted to share with this group is that over the summer and fall, we'll be holding more focused and intentional listening sessions, strategy sessions, and partner-led forums to continue to shape the strategy. We are really focused on collective impact, knowing that, yes, this is a statewide plan and the state government holds it, but it's successful, we know, from HUTF, we know that it's most successful if it works collaboratively and if we have collective buy-in. So all that's to say that if your organization or community is interested in collaborating with us on a co-led session over the summer and fall, we'd really love to hear from you. So that's it for me, and I'll just put a link in the chat of how you can reach us. Thank you.
Great. And I think that wraps us up right now that we've shared everything. Again, I wanted to thank all of you for your very, very thoughtful contributions, and thank you in advance for helping to get the word out about the upcoming listening sessions to get more community members, especially working on getting folks who really have experience in vulnerable communities to have their voices heard in this process. So let's see, we're going to be resharing just to close we talked about the action group that will be starting up right after this. We're going to be sharing the registration link right at the end of, there it is again in the chat. Please share that form with others in your network to see who can provide valuable insights into developing recommendations for state agencies to improve coordination around emergency food. And we also want to remind you that our Q3 meeting is coming up on July 9th at 2 p.m. So we really look forward to all of you participating in that. At that point, Julie is going to be having a more in-depth conversation and getting this group's feedback into that statewide food strategy that she was talking about. So that is the agenda for today. I want to thank you all very much. And do you have anything in closing, Martina?
I have one more closing comment, and this is more of a wish than it is a well, actually, think of it as planting a seed. So you all learned a lot today. Even you brought a lot of information and knowledge you added to that repertoire. You even started to imagine the future at its very best. So my hope, my seed to plant is that you don't wait. If you heard an idea that is worth starting immediately, pick up the phone, send a note, let's start getting it going, because it's one thing for us to create this beautiful plan that we're going to iterate and evolve together. And it's another to make the future a reality with immediacy. And we know that takes a village. So it can start small, it can be big. I hope you all have found something to put that spark and get started right away today. And have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom in this session. We really appreciate it.
See you soon. Take care.
Oh, I thought Rachel wanted to play